Hi there! Welcome to Cook Local, Eat Local, the podcast where you can find inspiration, tips, and recipes for enjoying more local food and drink. I am David Crowley, your host. In today's episode, we talk to Chef Joe Carli about what to do with our latest CSA veggies. Chef Joe, trained at the New England Culinary Institute, is the chef owner at A Tavola in Winchester, Mass. Prior to this role, he cooked in some of Boston's best-known restaurants. Well, hello, Joe. Welcome to Cook Local, Eat Local.
Hi, David. How you doing?
Good. It is great to have you on the show. And as you know, part of the theme here is we get to brainstorm about some of the veggies I've gotten in my CSA. But before we do that, you are sitting in a restaurant, a wonderful restaurant, I will say, A Tavola in Winchester, Massachusetts. So people know your expertise and where you're coming from. Why don't you tell us a little bit how you got to be sitting there as the chef owner of this local restaurant?
So I was working for a restaurant in West Medford, Bistro 5, and oddly enough, I had applied to work at the restaurant that was at A Tavola before, Parsons Table. And it's right around the corner from the owner of Bistro 5's house. He wanted something that was closer to home for him, so he opened A Tavola about 12 years ago. And in that time, I was still the chef at Bistro 5. And A Tavola was up and running, and I just wanted to be here instead. After a few years at Bistro 5, I left Bistro 5 and I went to go work at a couple other restaurants. When I left that job, I decided, I want to take some time off. I want to have some vacation, the young son at home. And I think I updated Facebook or LinkedIn. And a couple of days later, Vittorio texts me and called me and says, "Hey, want to buy a restaurant?" So instead of taking a vacation, what I do, I said yes and agreed to buy a restaurant, which then just leads me to have no vacation time.
Right.
But my son loves coming in here. He hangs out in the kitchen. He's learned quite a bit. I think when he was 5, he was able to break a rabbit down by himself with a knife.
Wow, those are some skills.
Yeah. He learned that when we cut up a whole animal and we grind up the ground beef, you don't just stick your hand in there with a glove on and grab a fistful of ground beef raw and try to eat it because it looks like hamburger. He learned that one the hard way.
Yeah.
But it's been a lot of fun. And buying a restaurant right before a worldwide pandemic, probably not the best move.
Oh, yeah.
But the local community has been absolutely amazing. We have a great deal of regulars that come in here on a consistent basis. And we're starting to get word out surrounding communities to get people to venture into Winchester. It's a great, sleepy little Hallmark town that would work great for a Hallmark Christmas movie because it's just that kind of perfect scene.
Yeah, and you're right. I know you being right there in the center. It's a very nice location, and you sort of really get that. There's so many restaurants, especially out in the suburbs. Decent restaurants, but you can be like by a big parking lot or the highway or something. That's not very.
We're on a nice side street, and the businesses around us. There's a couple clothing boutiques, and there's a bank and a real estate office, and they all shut down at 5 o'clock. We open at 5 o'clock. So all those parking spots on the street open up, and there's plenty of street parking.
Yeah, that's definitely a plus. Very different than going into Boston for sure.
Very different.
So of course this podcast focuses a lot on local food, and before we talk about my weekly challenge, the focus, I mean, part of why I invited you to join is that looking at your menu and just tasting the food, it's clear you're kind of really leaning into the local food there. I'm curious, was that from day one, or is that kind of something you've evolved to, or tell us a little bit about that angle for you in the restaurant?
So currently we have about 5 raised beds behind the restaurant and a little slope that goes down to a parking lot.
Oh, I didn't.
We grow a decent amount of produce there that we incorporate into the menu. Last year we had 4 or 5 different kinds of corn, different varieties that we used in different preparations. We dried some and ground it up for semolina and made pasta with it. We use some for polenta. We made
Wow.
some. This is fresh eating corn. We dried some for popcorn. We grow basil. First time ever growing garlic this year, and it worked out really well.
Nice.
We have a couple rhubarb plants that are somewhere around like 20 years old that I got from my sister-in-law's neighbor's house.
Huh.
So we use that in our desserts. We make a house-made limoncello with it that seems to be a crowd favorite.
Huh.
Yeah, basil, tomatoes, peas, sting nettles. We grow a lot of stuff there.
Sting nettles. Wow. What is a sting nettle? I don't think, and what would you do with it?
So sting nettles, it's a nice little green. It's got lots of vitamins and nutrients in it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were ever a kid growing up in New England and you're running around the woods with your friends
Mm-hmm.
and wearing shorts or a t-shirt and brushed up against something and it just kind of makes your skin burn.
Yep, I've been there.
Yeah, you then proceeded to rip that plant out of the ground and hit your friends with it because that's what you do. So once you cook the sting nettle at all, you want to just pick the leaves off, cook it. The sting comes out of it.
Hmm.
So you can treat it like spinach or kale. We generally blanch it, puree it up, a little bit of water, and work it into pasta dough.
Huh.
Gives it a nice green
Nice.
color, really nice kind of herbal vegetable flavor.
Nice.
Growing up, my grandfather, who was a big inspiration for me, had a really big garden at his house in
Yep.
Woburn.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So a lot of it was going out to his garden and picking vegetables, tomatoes. He always had string beans and zucchini and making zucchini bread and stuff for dinner out of his garden.
Nice.
Because he was such an inspiration to me becoming a cook and wanting to own a restaurant. It's, I don't know, maybe like an homage to him, or
Yeah.
just that instead of trying to buy something that was grown year round out in California or somewhere else, like there's no reason why you need an heirloom tomato in January.
Right.
There's no
Right.
reason why you need all this stuff that you can change up seasonally, especially in New England where there's just great produce and
Mm-hmm.
different things. And as a chef, it's a little bit of a way to challenge yourself to work seasonally and work as local
Right.
as possible. When the weather changes, when different stuff starts sprouting and growing, you find a way to use it.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Definitely. So perfect. So perfectly aligned with the show.
Yeah.
You mentioned heirloom tomatoes. That's one of we have a few things that we want to talk about that I get still probably. I assume we're probably getting toward the tail end of tomato season, but I did get some nice heirloom tomatoes. I'd love to hear. I mean, they're tasty, obviously, to slice and just eat, but I'm guessing you might have one or two creative things, a little more creative than that, especially for those of us that have been getting a lot of tomatoes for the last month or so.
Yeah. Especially in New England right now, we got a hurricane coming later this week. There's
Mm-hmm.
pouring rain outside right now. Looks like it's getting a little windy. So a lot of those tomato plants are probably going to be dropping some of their fruit.
Yeah.
And then if you are going to a farmer's market, most farms will have number twos or hurricane tomatoes, which means they just fell off the vine. Still perfectly safe to buy and eat. Just
Yeah.
give them a little wash
Mm-hmm.
gently and perfectly fine to use. Right now, our menu, we're using the heirloom tomatoes in a couple different places. We have oven cured some of them, which means basically we're making lightly under dried, sun dried tomatoes.
Huh,
We're taking the
interesting.
tomatoes, kind of cutting them into smaller pieces, tossing them some fresh herbs, olive oil, salt, and then just slowly roasting them in a low oven at about 250 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
and just sort of concentrating the juices and the flavors inside. And then we're taking those tomatoes and serving them with a ravioli. It's a Parmesan ravioli
Ooh.
in a sweet corn brodo, and then some grilled
Nice.
corn on there too. So you're getting a fair amount of sweetness, but the flavor of the tomato just gets concentrated just enough so that it complements the corn. And corn and tomatoes in summer, there's really no other better combination.
Yeah, that sounds like a great summer dish.
We also have it on our pork chop right now. So we're taking some heirloom tomatoes, just season them up nice and simple, like you said, with a little bit of salt. We're pouring it's like a tomatillo salsa verde, which sounds weird for an Italian restaurant, but
Right.
if you or anyone who's listening has come into the restaurant and sat at the bar, you know that I have bad ADD, and the menu changes pretty much on a daily basis, or at least most of
Hmm.
it does.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to be tied down to one specific type of cuisine. Italian food
Hmm.
is where my heart is. It's what I'd rather eat and cook. But you can incorporate different items to it, and the basis behind Italian food is just keeping it simple.
Right.
Don't do
Right.
don't do a lot to the ingredients. Make them shine. Showcase your food around that.
Hmm.
Um, so it's a lightly cooked tomatillo salsa. So tomatillos, a couple jalapenos, some white wine,
Mm.
and lime zest.
Yep.
That's kind of cooked for a little while, puree nice and smooth. The heirloom tomatoes go down on the plate. We spoon some of the warm tomatillo salsa on top of it. A nice Berkshire, what was it? A Berkshire Old Spot cross pork chop,
Mm.
brined and
Yep.
grilled on top of that, and then some roasted shishito peppers on the plate. So you're getting spiced, you're getting sweet, you're getting nice kind of salty, sweet, herby, brined pork chop, and just a fat cap on that pork chop that we're getting from Chickering Farms up in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
It's just it's like a perfect little bite of summer. And
Oh,
two,
yeah.
Wednesdays we go to the Arlington Farmers Market,
Okay.
and it's either Kimball Fruit Farms that we're getting the heirlooms from,
Hmm.
or one of the other farms like Busa Farm has really nice shishito peppers right now.
Okay.
And went last Wednesday, everything that was served on that dish was coming right from the farmers market, so never hit a refrigerator. Came
Wow,
right
that's
through. The
awesome.
tomatoes were still warm. It's a hot, beautiful day, so like
Hmm.
tomatoes were still nice and warm from the sun. They were picked that morning. It was just perfect. That's what I had for dinner.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So that sounds great. Now, tomatoes, well, actually, I didn't like them as a young kid, but I've always kind of liked, at least since I had somewhat adult taste. But eggplant is the next thing I want to talk to you about, which it's one of those things I used to have a bit of a dislike. I would definitely put it on an eggplant on my, dislike list, but I've gradually warmed up to it. But just knowing what you do over there, I'm guessing you have some ways that might get me full over from, like, now I'm like, okay, I can eat it. I can eat it. Maybe you might help someone like me find a way to love some eggplant.
Yeah. I mean, right now there's probably a couple different kinds of eggplant coming in your CSAs. There's the long, skinny Japanese variety,
Mhm. Those are the
which we
purplish. I
yep,
like the lighter. Yeah, yeah, not the
yeah,
brown.
it's probably anywhere between 6 and 10 inches in length,
Yeah, yeah.
about a little bit bigger in diameter than like a half dollar.
Right, right.
Um, so we actually have a dish on the menu that we've had on the menu for a while that people get mad at me if I take it off. So we take one of those Japanese eggplants and we peel it, rub it with olive oil, salt, and pepper, and we let it sit overnight. The salt helps to pull out some of the bitterness and moisture. And then the next day we grill it so it gets nice and tender all the way through.
Hmm.
And it sits on a bed of frisee, which you're probably not getting a lot of CSAs, but it's like a nice bitter chicory.
Yep.
Um, we dress the frisee with a little bit of goat cheese, mint, and a Calabrian chili vinaigrette,
Mm-hmm.
which has spice to it, but it's like a nice sweet spice. So it's
Yep.
nothing that you're really gonna melt your face off with, but you're gonna definitely know there's some pepper in
Right, right.
there. The mint and the goat cheese are there to help kind of calm down the heat and to balance
Mm-hmm.
out the bitterness in the frisee. The eggplant is nice and warm, so it sits on there, starts to slowly wilt the frisee, but you're going to eat it fast because it's delicious.
Yeah.
Um, if you're getting some of the larger eggplant,
Yeah, that's
one
what
of
I
my
got
favorite,
last time, the big guy, yeah. The
yeah,
brown.
one of my favorite things to make is caponata.
Mm-hmm.
Great, you can eat it cold, you can eat it warm, you can mix it into pasta dishes. You
Yeah.
can use it as a topping for a steak. You can eat it as like chips and salsa.
Yeah. That's very nice.
So it's diced eggplant, but that's been peeled and cleaned up and slowly seasoned so that way it pulls the moisture out, pulls the bitterness out, and you're
Mm-hmm.
cooking it down with onions and tomatoes and raisins and kind of like a nice agrodolce, sweet and sour type
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
and some people add pine nuts to it, some people don't. It's just it's great. I mean, you can make it pretty much year round because you can get eggplant whenever. But um, if you're ending up with a good amount of eggplant from weeks on end,
Yeah.
that's a pretty safe bet, and
Yeah.
you can find all sorts of different ways to use it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I noticed you said you peel. I've heard of salting. You peel those larger ones, or do you do that generally, or for that particular dish?
Uh so I think I kind of peel it more for effect
Okay.
on in my caponata when we make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The dish we have on the menu with the Japanese eggplant, we peel it so that way we get a nice char on it when
Oh
we
yeah.
grill it, and it
Right.
helps the moisture to come out of it and the bitterness to come out of the eggplant when we let it marinate overnight.
Yeah. Makes sense.
For caponata, I wouldn't say that it's necessary to peel it,
Right. Right.
but as long as you dice it up nice and small, so that way it's if you are going to eat it as like chips and salsa, or
Hmm.
if you just make a big batch of it, you can use it in any different way you want.
Right. Yeah. That sounds good. Now, I know you already mentioned one thing that had corn in it, but corn, another great, still coming in. Again, probably not much longer, but some other idea. It was great to hear you're actually using it for your own pasta, which is great. Any other ideas for what we can do when we get a bunch of corn in our hands?
Yeah, I mean, fresh corn is little you can do to it that is going to not be good and tasty. Um, so we use it a couple different preparations on the menu right now. We have a sweet corn brodo, which
Mhm.
is it's kind of like pudding.
Huh.
It's super simple to make. So we take fresh corn, take the husk off of it, cut the kernels off, set the kernels aside, take the cobs that have some, like if you rub a knife up against it, once you cut the kernels off, you get that nice kind of milk.
Hmm.
So we put the cobs in a pot of cold water, bring that up to a simmer for about 20 minutes,
Yeah.
shut it off, strain out the cobs, saving the liquid, and then we take the kernels and we add the kernels to the cornstalk,
Hmm.
just enough to let it cook. So that way it stays nice and warm over probably like medium heat.
Yeah.
Work in small batches so that way you don't cool the liquid down too much. And then just puree the corn kernels with a little bit of the corn stalk,
Mm.
add a little bit of salt, pepper. Right now you definitely don't need it, but early in the season you might need a little bit of sugar.
Yeah.
And then just pass it through a fine sieve
Hmm.
or a strainer so we don't have any of those hairs that
Oh
come with
yeah.
the corn or the
Right.
silk.
Yeah.
Um, and then that's just a nice base sauce for anything, and it goes great with anything, especially in New England with corn when it's in season. You have lobsters basically jumping out of the water.
Yeah.
We use it on pasta dishes. We've used it under. It's great with steak. It's a great substitute
Hmm.
in like a mac and cheese.
Oh yeah. I could see that. Yeah.
You can kind of, if your kids are being picky about trying to not eat vegetables,
Uh-huh.
you mix a little bit of that corn pudding into your mac and cheese. You're
Ah.
taking away some of the gluten that you might not want them to have, or
Hmm.
not make it so heavy.
Right. Right.
A little bit of cheese in there, and it's sweet enough that they're gonna like it and want more. It's healthy because there's no dairy, there's no nothing in there.
Hmm.
It's literally just corn and corn stock.
Wow.
Um,
Simple but delicious.
yeah, and then once you have that corn stock, you can do a whole bunch of different things with it. Right now, we have quite a bit of corn stock, so we're cooking polenta with the corn stock to kind of
Hmm.
drive that flavor of the corn
Oh
through
yeah.
even. Um, Tonight, actually, that's on the menu with a. So we're making polenta with corn stock, a little bit of butter, and a spicy Calabrian sausage, and we're gonna have a piece of swordfish on top of there.
Mm. Yeah.
And it's just like it. You can turn it into a soup if you just thin it out a little bit more
Hmm.
with more corn stock.
Hmm. Wow.
Um,
Sounds good. Yeah, we've been covering a lot of the summer vegetables, but I know we're kind of right at getting close to the calendar turning to fall. Are there things you're particularly looking forward to getting your hands on and starting to use more when it starts getting chillier?
so I mean, if you talk to most chefs, they're when it's when it's fall, they're ready for like big hearty stews. When it's wintertime, they're ready for that first set of spring vegetables coming out. When it's
Yeah.
spring, they want the summer vegetables. So right now, starting to see some stuff hit your local produce markets and farmers markets. You're starting to see some squashes, some apples, some pears, and um, we got a whole bunch of apples from Kenmore Food Farm last week, and just kind of playing around with some stuff, getting ideas halfway done on paper
Yeah.
for the fall menu rollouts. The bartenders are having fun with drying some out for chips and garnishes, and
Oh yeah.
working on sangrias and stuff for the fall, and just trying to think stuff through. There's always some fun squashes and gourds coming out in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning
Yeah.
that might get kind of pushed to the side once like the big market acorn squashes and
Right.
butternut and buttercup and all the other ones that are nice and cute and you want to see that you're seeing in the checkout line magazines and
Right.
different things like that. We got some we got some blue Hubbard squash the other day just to play with. We have some raviolis that I have to get in the kitchen and make later.
Yeah.
Um, they're going to try with some short ribs tonight just to
Mm. Yeah.
start thinking about fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, don't really want the summer to end as
Right.
far as corn and tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's nice to have uh, some nice kales and things like
Mhm.
that are going to be nice and fresh that you can saute, you can braise some collard greens and things that are hardy enough to stand up to different preparations.
Yeah.
And with fall, my mind goes to game meats and some
Yeah.
boar and things that we can get in that will help complement all the great hardy produce that we're going to be seeing soon.
Right. Yeah. That sounds like something to look forward to for sure. Now, I know, as you said early on, when you bought a restaurant, you kind of lost the chance to take much of a vacation ever, probably. But I don't know the extent to which you maybe do all your cooking, but I'm kind of wondering when you do get a chance to cook at home it might be a rare occasion, but are there some things you've kind of learned from your tricks from the restaurant that you think, whether it's you cooking at home or folks listening that they might be able to apply? I mean, probably a number of things you've already said, but I don't know if you had to think of one or two things that maybe the average home cook might not think to do that you've learned in your trade that you might give us an idea about.
Try to use as much as you can.
Yeah.
Uh, don't try not to throw anything away. There's every part of everything is pretty much usable in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whether it's vegetables or meat or fish, there's always something you can do. Um, and don't take it too serious. It's food.
Yeah.
Have fun with it, eat it, enjoy it, share with friends, share with family. Um, when it comes to cooking at home, my son, who's now 7,
Yep.
is under the impression that my wife is a better cook when it comes to pasta than I am.
Oh my. That's some
Because one
exciting words.
time, yeah, one time maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't strain his pasta well enough. And when I gave it to him, basically refused to eat it. And
Oh,
he'll come in for dinner with my wife, my sister-in-law, and some of the cousins, and he'll have a hamburger, but he refuses to let me cook him pasta because mommy makes it better because one time I didn't strain the pasta well enough, which my wife loves to just kind of kick back at me. And then I'm like, buddy, look around. All these people are basically here to have pasta for the
yeah.
most part. And he's like, no. He's like, mommy can come in there. Mommy can show you.
Oh,
No, I don't think mommy wants to come in the kitchen and cook pasta for everyone tonight. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. I I feel like I have like the best job out there. I get to play with fire and knives all day. I get to cook food. I get to eat food. I don't have to sit in an office.
yep.
The majority of the time, I'm kind of rushing through paperwork so I can just get back in the kitchen. And yeah, I'm in the kitchen every day. I'm cooking 99.9% of the entrees that leave the kitchen.
Wow.
Um, it's a small kitchen. If you haven't been to a Tavola,
Yeah.
there's myself, one cook, and my dishwasher in the kitchen, and that's it.
Oh, that's it. I didn't realize that because I know you can sit. Some of the is it the bar seating? You can probably get a little more of a view from. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, the chef's counter is probably our most requested table and seat in the dining room,
Yeah.
and you can sit there, and as long as we're not insanely busy, we will stop and we'll talk to people. People love asking us questions about food
Yeah.
and what they can do different with a certain dish they tried making at home, or they'll ask us what we're prepping if it's slow enough and we're trying to get something done during service. And myself and my sous chef David actually helped Vittorio open a Tavola 12 years ago.
Oh, okay.
We've worked together at maybe 5 or 6 restaurants over the years
Cool.
in and around Boston and around suburbs. And it's a lot of fun. Like, we've known each other for close to 15, 16 years. So we have the dance of a kitchen down pretty well. We know each other's moves. When one of us is going one way, we don't really need to talk all that much, but we still do. Anyone who's seen the bear, it's yelling behind you and corner and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But it's there. I mean, it's a small, tight kitchen, and we do what we can with it, and feel like we do a pretty fair job of making sure that the menu changes on a regular basis and the food's fun. It's not too complicated. It's not too fussy.
Hmm.
You're not going to see us with tweezers and different things that
Yeah.
just make stuff too complicated. We want to make food that makes us happy, that makes our guests
Mhm.
happy. Um, yeah, I mean
It's like
it's
real food, real ingredients, letting them shine, kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and I know I've said it, but it's about having fun. We want to have fun with the food. We want to try to bring the experience of a tavola to, if you don't feel like going out, we're now doing Friday night meets. So it's
Oh, okay.
football season, it's fall sports season, it's back to school. So if you want to watch your high school team or your local team play, we're doing barbecue type items that you can bring to a tailgate on
Oh, nice.
Friday nights
Okay.
for high
Cool.
schools, or Saturdays for college football, or you want to reheat them on Sundays for NFL Sundays, or just to have some nice barbecue at home when we're not open.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good option. That's a good segue. I was gonna kind of, as we near a close, kind of getting that kind of info. So that's great in terms of like your hours and
Yeah,
reservations,
so
all that sort of.
we because I don't get to really take vacations, we're closed on Sundays and Mondays, so I have some
Yeah,
time at home with the family.
sure.
Um, so Sundays and Mondays we're closed. We are open Tuesday through Saturday. Tuesday through Thursday we're open from 5 to 9. Friday
Yep.
and Saturday we're open till 10.
Yep.
And we have a patio that doesn't look like we're going to get any seatings out there tonight because it's pouring right now.
Right.
And but the patio is located right on Church Street. It's a nice little oasis surrounded by flowers right on the street. You're nice and well protected with 3-ton Jersey barriers. So no one's careening through it and hitting you. You'll destroy your car before you move one of these things.
Right.
And it's a great community that is just kind of rallied behind all the small businesses.
Yep.
The Jersey barriers are supplied to us by a local tow company, Stevens Towing. Uh, Mahoney's and McHugh's garden centers help us out with the flowers and everything to decorate the patio, and the garden. They've helped huge because I don't really have a green thumb. I
Mhm.
just make sure the flowers get enough water and sunlight. The garden, I'm a little bit better at than flowers, but
Yep.
they look pretty. The produce tastes good. It's all that really matters.
Yeah. Great. And so they can go to your website. We'll have show notes where we can link to your website and your social media. But if you want to say it for the give your website URL, and I know you're active at least on Instagram. I don't know if you want to mention any ways like that people can connect with you and see what you're
Sure.
cooking.
Our website is atavolawinchester.com. There are links on there and drop down menus for our dinner menu or dessert menu, cocktail, wine lists. And then every month we try to do at least one fun event, whether it's a wine dinner, a cocktail class. Last month we did a kind of a round robin cocktail class, antipasti board making class, and then a butchery demo where we broke down a whole pig for a bunch of guests that wanted to just see an animal get cut up. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Twitter or X, sorry, don't.
That's all right.
Don't mean to annoy Elon, but so we're on those. Our Instagram is A_Tavola_Winchester.
Yeah.
Facebook is A Tavola Winchester, and we try to respond to any message and comment that people send. We're pretty active on there when it comes to people asking in the direct messages how to cook something, how to prepare something.
Yeah.
Which we get a fair amount of requests about and a lot of comments. People came in and they might have had something to eat that they want to try to duplicate at home.
Yeah.
If you want a recipe from me, I'm going to ask a recipe from you.
Nice.
And whether it's a family recipe or one that you just really like, I have kind of an obsession with cookbooks and recipes, and there are notebooks all over my house. There are cookbooks all over my house.
Yeah.
We have a bookcase behind me over there with some of our favorites. We partner up with a bookstore, an independent bookstore in town, Bookends Winchester, and once a month we take a book that they're recommending, and we cook one or two recipes out of it, and you get a discount on the meal here if you buy the dish that we're cooking out of it, if you bring the receipt that you purchased the book from them, or if you bring the receipt from here to Bookends, they'll give you a discount on the purchase of the book. Oh. And they're all fun books. They're all, well, for the most part, they're newer books. We started with Marcella Hazan, who's basically the grandmother of Italian cooking. Yeah. We've done some chefs that I've known and met in the past that have written cookbooks. The one that we're doing for September is we're kind of showcasing Joanne Chang and all of her flower books. Yeah. So we're kind of trying to revamp our dessert menu and get that ready for fall, getting rid of the rhubarb and the strawberries and stuff that are probably going to be going away. Right. So we're trying to come up with some inspiration from those. We follow the recipe directly as it's in the book, and then once we incorporate it into our menu, if we do so, then we'll adjust it so we're not ripping a dish from someone, because that's just no fun. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, that's great. A lot of fun. And I like that emphasis on keeping it fun. And, it's great. I've enjoyed meals over there. And it's not a surprise that there's somebody behind it that's got the passion that's come through in this conversation. But it's great to get a little bit more of the background. And I think for folks in the area, I definitely would encourage them to check it out for themselves. Let their palate be the judge. Don't just take it from me. Yeah, and then for folks that are further away, of course, if you're in the Boston area, visiting as many people do, you should. It's definitely a place to check out. And then, but also, I think anyone listening could take some inspiration from all your suggestions for the vegetables I threw at you and some of the other preparations you mentioned. So, definitely appreciate you taking the time to share with us. Thank you. And if you come across any stuff in your weekly box from the farm, you don't know what to do with it, give me a call, send me a message. I will. And I'm sure we can find something to do with it together that will make you happy and fill you up. Cool. I'll take you up on that. All right. Thanks, Joe. Will do. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Cook Local, Eat Local. To get the show notes with links for recipes and resources we covered today, go to cooklocaleatlocal.com to get the podcast landing page. And please be sure to subscribe to Cook Local, Eat Local wherever you get your podcasts. Make it a great day with some tasty local food on your plate.